Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me, as always, Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cam?
Hey, what's going on, everybody?
What's going on is today we are talking all about Sonic the Hedgehog 3. We just saw it in theaters. We're recording this on Saturday, so hot off of our viewing, we're going to do, as always, our spoiler-free impressions first, and then we'll dive into full spoilers. So feel free to check the timestamps below if you need to, duck away and then come back after you have seen the movie yourself. Before we hop into that, if you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all of that fun stuff. So yeah, Cameron, spoiler-free thoughts here. I believe we've seen all three of the Sonic movies together.
We did, yeah. Sonic right before the pandemic.
Before the pandemic, the first one, yeah, and then
right after the pandemic, lockdown and everything left it on, and we saw Sonic 2.
Yep.
And now we've seen Sonic 3.
Yeah. What were your spoiler-free thoughts on Sonic 3 here? Also, just real quick, did you watch the Knuckles show at all?
No, I did not watch the Knuckles show.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like I was missing anything.
It's on Paramount Plus, I think, and I don't watch that. So,
what did you think of Sonic 3 spoiler-free?
Spoiler-free thoughts. I think that this is going to be. I've seen other people's takes on it. I do disagree with people. On one level, which is, I think this is perhaps the worst paced Sonic movie that we've had so far, in that from the get-go, it goes and it goes and it goes, and it really doesn't stop. It has a couple of lower energy points, but those are quickly moved aside and we get right back into it.
Gotta go fast.
I feel like Sonic 2 is a better paced one, but I know also a lot of people did abhor any human storylines in the Sonic movies. So as somebody who also watched a lot of Criminal Minds growing up, getting to see one of my favorite actors from that show pop up in the Sonic movie, the introduction of Gun, and fully calling out that how stupid of a name that is and everything. You named your organization Gun. It's a lot of that, a lot of the comedy I think hits better in Sonic 1 and Sonic 2 than Sonic 3 does. There are some great moments though, but I think if you are a big, you just asked me before we started recording, Sonic sickos, if you're the Sonic sickos out there, I think you're going to be they gave us Sonic Adventure 2, but in a movie, and that's really going to Jones your member berry, cortex, where you're oh my gosh, the nostalgia. It's good. It's serviceable. I think that it has some really awesome high moments. I think it took a lot really big, bold steps of stepping up the action from 2 going into 3, where they're hey, full CGI fest right now. It's basically, Dragon Balls, a Dragon Ball Z,
sure,
anime fight basically is what we're getting. And they go all in on it, and it works for what it is. And because that's just what it is. It's a CGI fest. It's an anime fight. We get that. It works. We're good. Moving on into what else is going on otherwise, I think it takes a lot of bold steps with the double casting of Jim Carrey in a way that I was really unsure how it would work out. I enjoyed it because they made a really great point of being yes, they look very similar, but personality-wise, there's a lot of differences. And the cracks start showing almost immediately, and the cracks, when they break apart, and kind of the reveals happen, it works on a level that I think is helps separate those characters out even further and make them, by the end of the movie, they are even though played by the same actor, they're both called Robotnik. There is a difference between Ivo and Gerald Robotnik distinctly by the end of the movie. So it succeeds on that level. Tails and Knuckles definitely get Knuckles, especially from being the dudeagonist in 2 to now being much more of a sidekick supporting cast member, and kind of really getting to that level. A bit of a step down as far as screen time and kind of relevancy, but still critical member of the team, comes through. It does a great job of always setting up being yes, Sonic is better as a team than Sonic solo. And so they succeed in continuing that thread of what it means to be a family, what it means to be a team. It keeps the heart of this first Sonic movie and they successfully carried that over to 2, and now they've carried it over to 3. There are very believable, like heartfelt moments and heart-wrenching moments in this movie. And they succeed on nailing the kind of tone and, I don't know if the right word is, I'm using the right word here, timbre. I think
sure.
timbre, but I think I actually mean like temperament, like the temperament of what you are wanting to see out of these like bigger tragic moments, or these bigger like, oh no kind of moments are successful. They do nail like the emotional beats when they need to. So overall, I don't think this is the best paced Sonic movie. It might be the worst one, but outside of that major criticism, it is a pretty stellar flick. Even if you remotely like Sonic, you'll like this movie.
So I haven't thought about the second movie in a while.
Sure.
I probably only watched it the one time, and then largely forgot about it. But the things I do remember about it are like the things I remember being like, wow, we took like a whole second act detour into the wedding of a couple of very supporting characters kind of thing. And I am one of those people that was like, I didn't need that at all in the last one. And so kind of cutting that piece out of the puzzle and keeping it like, hey, here's a mindless action fest worked for me. I like,
sure.
Yeah, I'm never going to walk away thinking like, oh, this is like very high art, but especially,
For sure.
especially for like the audience, this is very much geared towards, like, we were in a theater surrounded by lots of kids and they were eating this shit up the entire time, loving it, loving the dual Jim Carrey stuff. I'm very much and have always been in the Sonic vein of things of like, a little Jim Carrey goes a long way. So having a lot of Jim Carrey in this, there were definitely moments where I was like, all right, he's going full Olaf from Unfortunate Events, which did not work for me back when he did that kind of thing. And so there were definitely a lot of beats that I didn't like of his, but he did get me a few times, and there were a few good chuckles in there. The like Team Sonic, yeah, like I enjoyed their vibe, and that they are like, they weren't retreading kind of ground from the first couple movies. This was like, hey, yeah, like we're an established family kind of thing, and like here's the new threat in Shadow. And I thought Keanu Reeves was, definitely has like the fun, spotlight role of this one, as expected from kind of the trailers, and as like he's very much the Knuckles of this movie, as expected. So yeah, I enjoyed like the little action sequences for them, as somebody who, like, I've played the OG Genesis Sonics, and that's it. I never played any of the like move to 3D Sonics. I know, bits and pieces through osmosis in gaming culture and stuff like that. So like, I know enough about Shadow to have known what to expect going into this. And they hit the beats that I expected them to hit. There were definitely a lot of, to your point of like CG fest moments. There were, but they also are, I think, very in tune to give fans what they want. So it is like, okay, yeah, here's a couple blurs and we see, just trails of light, but we have those moments where it is like, okay, here's the freeze frame splash of Sonic and Shadow going at it or something like that.
Yeah.
And it gives us enough of those, and throughout the movie we're constantly getting those kinds of like little, not full freeze frame, but like, here's the like, we've gone down into bullet time so you can see what's happening kind of beat. And give, big, like, there were so many times in this where I was like, oh, Tim Geddes fucking ate this shit up. Shout out
100%.
Tim over at Kind of Funny.
Oh, Blessing too. Yeah. Blessing.
And Blessing. Yeah.
Blessing as a
And
major.
Roger,
Roger. They're all digging
Rienza.
it. They're all loving it.
Yeah.
Roger, biggest Shadow stan out there. So not really. They are like they're Sonic sickos. So.
They're the ones that we know in our circles and stuff like that. So yeah, overall, like I thought the pacing of this one worked way better for me than Sonic 2, that did feel like it drugged to a halt in, for 30 minutes in the middle of that movie. This one kept movement, kept things going. And yeah, it loses out on a little bit of like probably emotional depth because of that, but it is also like it doesn't need to mine the emotional depth of, you know, Sonic and Tom, James Marsden's character, as much, because we've gotten a couple movies of that already. So it can kind of shorthand that a little bit in favor of, okay, we're going to see a lot of Shadow backstory, and we're going to, you know, get introduced to that kind of stuff.
You say that, but also they set it up so great at the beginning that I also feel like they didn't need to do as many callbacks. Because when it did call back to that relationship at the end, no spoilers here, but that is like a touchstone moment that you're like, that's the connecting thread, we're good.
Yeah, it was very much like kind of paint by numbers screenwriting of like, okay,
100%.
Here's the moment that we're going to see called back to at the very end of the movie kind of thing.
Yeah.
And like absolutely kind of doing that foreshadowing, that place setting for everything. And, you know, that worked for me. I like it. There weren't any particular surprises for me in this. I think.
It's telegraphed pretty thoroughly.
But so, yeah, it was.
But it's not bad.
Well, I guess I'll leave a couple of surprising things for maybe the spoiler cast portion. But yeah, overall, like I had a fun enough time. This will absolutely kind of be the same as Sonic 2, though, for me in terms of like, I'm not a Sonic person. I won't really think about this again until Sonic 4 comes out in 2027 or whenever. Well, that's when they've got it slated for. So if it hits that, you know, I'm sure we'll go see that. And shout out, like I'm never going to be mad about Ben Schwartz getting work.
For sure, yeah,
he's always a delight, and he's fun in here. Idris Elba is fun as Knuckles, kind of even in that like relegated, you know, sidekick support role. I always forget, is it Colleen O'Shaughnessy for Tails?
I believe so.
Who plays Tails?
Let me double check here.
Like they're doing
Colleen O'Shaughnessy. Yep.
Yeah. She's doing her you know, her Tails thing. So yeah, everybody I think showed up to play and had fun. And yeah, like there is, like, my biggest gripe would be Jim Carrey pulling double duty as double Jim Carrey, but that also gave us some really fun stuff with Lee Majub's Agent Stone character. Yeah, and I weirdly, I think he has like the most interesting arc across the three movies.
He does. He
going
certainly
from like
does.
henchman to like, you know, confidant to you know, spurned or, you know, whatever kind of henchman.
There's a moment where it like they got me so hard where they did the whole Tails like, well, you're best friends, and he's like, yeah, that's all we are.
Yep,
best friends.
Yep, yeah.
It's like it's very like
it's like.
Great
like,
subtle
even
joke about
even that. The subtext that you're kind of playing on it, it's like it's not even that big. It's very much like, especially for like the kids in the audience, it's way more leaning into, yes, I am a friend of Robotnik's and not somebody that he just always craps on. Absolutely, yeah. I am part of Team Robotnik kind of thing in the way that Tails and Knuckles are part of Team Sonic, and we have seen throughout these movies that he is very clearly a henchman and is way more one-sided in his investment of Robotnik than Robotnik is in him. Let alone, yes, there are obviously some romantic undertones kind of seated in there.
Which also isn't like, if that was a real relationship, it'd be incredibly inappropriate. One, the power dynamic, and two, also a like it's actually, you know, this is why it probably like it. The subtext may be like actual true is because of how sycophants and their narcissist partners usually work.
Sure.
Entirely possible.
Yeah.
That, and also that the henchman is Stone is feeling that deeper emotional connection where Robotnik is otherwise just like bordering
he's dead set on killing the hedgehog and you know and being a villain.
He's aromantic, which is he's aromantic. He's not like interested in romance or like loving another person at all because he's such a narcissist. And like that's what makes Stone's sycophant like attitude work and make it comedic. But it also is like when you look under those undertones, then you look into the depth of it, it's like it's actually Stone's it's really sad.
Yeah.
And it's like, and if you think about it, like their abusive relationship, Robot at the end, you know, that's a spoiler, so I won't get into it. But like, it works the way it works, and I think it works great. I love, as somebody who was closeted for majority of my life, it was a very fun like. That's all it is. And they like in history, looking back, they were best friends and roommates, and they called each other like how much they always wrote poems about how much they loved each other. the best of friends, Alexander the Great and his buddy.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've gone very far away from the movie at this point.
For sure.
So I'm trying to figure out like where your thread is.
Oh, my thread
up
about
and
this is
running from.
that's the joke. Like that's the joke that even unintentionally, if they like were just like, no, we are playing it for the kid version of it. It's like as a man who was once closeted, that felt very funny to me. It got me really good.
Yeah. All right. Any other non-spoiler thoughts before we dive into full spoiler stuff?
Yes, Shadow fucking rules in this movie.
Yeah.
He fucking rules. I was like, I don't know, because I'm feeling like Keanu Reeves is doing like kind of like a dark tone, but there's no like difference in consistency. But then when we do get those softer moments, they feel special and nice. And I'm like, oh, and like we'll talk about it in the spoiler mode here in just a bit. But like that's like, oh, there is the dichotomy, but it's being reserved for these very tender moments.
Yeah.
And that elevates that performance to that next level, I think. And so he fucking rules. Yes, him on the motorcycle with the gun is just as cool as you want it to be. It nails it. It's great.
Yeah. So I think a recommendation, especially if you've enjoyed the first couple movies, definitely go check this one out. It's fun. You'll have a fun time. Hopefully you're not surrounded by, families that are just talking through the entire movie like we were. It was a little bit of a less than fun movie-going experience. But
for Trevor, as an uncle
Cameron's used to it.
Yeah,
but,
as an uncle for 24 years of my life, I can do it. No worries.
Yeah. For me, it was just the constancy of it. It was very much like, okay,
yeah, that's the problem.
These kids are not in their living room, and their parents have not raised them to not talk in a movie theater, and that's annoying. Like,
to the kids' credit, their dad was doing the exact same.
Exactly. That's my gripe was he sucked.
Oh yeah, the dad
was
was
the one who
worse.
absolutely sucked.
Yeah.
And is encouraging and
was
answering
that
their
worse
questions
than the
and
guy who at the very end of being like, man, I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna play a Sonic game. Who's with me?
That guy was a little weird, but
just out of nowhere, he's like having conversation with us, and I'm like, I don't know who you are.
I mean, he was just kind of like he was making like a loud enough it wasn't to us. It was
just
to
generalized.
Anybody,
He was behind me, so I didn't pick up on all the tones and details on it.
I imagine it was as much as anything like he saw that we're probably comparable age, would have grown up with Sonic, and we're the target audience of that. So yeah, him being like, anybody else going to go home and play Sonic, but nobody wanting to engage in conversation with him. So him just being like, just me? Okay. It
was a real movie moment. I'm not gonna lie. It was
you're a little bit more extroverted than us. Sorry, man.
Oh no, that guy was totally a Sonic sicko trying to feel out if there were other Sonic sickos out there.
I don't even think that.
I'm
so
joking.
much as,
I'm joking.
Yeah. So much as he was just he saw a couple 30-somethings who might also enjoy Sonic, and obviously because also we stuck around through the post-credit stuff, whereas a lot of the kids by that point had gone. They were already bounced. So. I don't fault him, even if he is a Sonic sicko, for thinking we were other Sonic sickos.
That's fair. We've just been conditioned by Marvel movies not to leave until after all the credits are
Well,
over.
also, I looked it up during the credits.
Oh, did you?
Is
Okay.
there anything else post-credits? Because, we get, and we'll talk about that in our spoiler cast, there's a mid-credits spoiler, or mid-credits thing and a post-credits thing. So, I had looked up after the mid-credits, is there anything else? And saw there was. So I was like, okay, we'll just hang out for that. And then, I was also thinking some of those kids are gonna be sad they didn't stick around.
Dude, the mid-credit ones, the kids next to us freaked the fuck out.
All the kids in the theater,
all the
popped
kids did.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, they went that cameo. I would have been like, oh, that's fine, okay.
Yeah,
kids, they popped off on it. They just went nuts.
Yep. Much in a spoiler-free sense, much like the last one ended with the shadow tease, this one very much has a future tease. It goes back to even the first one that ended with, or had the Tails tease at the end of the first one. So it's very much continuing in that vein of hey, here's the potential direction we're going to go for Sonic 4. Fun enough stuff there. Let's dive into full spoilers then at this point, and might as well just start there. Post credits, I think first, just real quick, We get kind of a tease that, Shadow's story isn't done, despite, maybe the end of the film kind of giving him his big hero, like saving the world moment. And we do get like him picking up his, bracelet kind of thing.
He is the ultimate life form.
He survived. But then, the mid credits, very much being like, okay, well, there's Metal Sonic. Cool. I recognize that. That's neat. Cool. And then like somebody else coming in, I'm like, oh, they are fucking doing Amy. And then sure enough, they do Amy.
When I saw the hammer flying around, I was like, oh shit, it's Amy. Okay.
Yeah, and that's the kids went fucking nuts for.
They went bananas. I'm like,
I know nothing about Amy apart from Amy's look and Amy's name. I know absolutely nothing else about Amy. So I'm like, all right, cool. Right? Like, she's not the human that Sonic made out with in Sonic 06 or whatever. So
nope.
I know that much, but...
She has a crush on Sonic in a lot of media.
Sure.
Sometimes she doesn't. And she's been often compared to being like, quote unquote, the love interest, but we all know the real love interest is the one from the Sonic the Animated Series and Sonic the comic book, the American comic book, which was, I believe she was a chipmunk. So.
Okay. You say you're not a Sonic sicko. I think you're a Sonic sicko, Cam.
No, here's the thing. I remember stuff about the Sonic like series that is just like everything else I've ever absorbed in my life, cataloged somewhere in my brain.
Yeah.
It's just I have been exposed to Sonic throughout my life.
Sure.
You get past Sonic 3 though, I barely have any idea who any of these people are.
Yeah, the only other thing I'm really like keeping an eye out for, and maybe they'll do it in the next one, just as like, hey, yep, we're going there too, is whenever they make Sonic a werewolf. That's like the only other.
Oh, that's that. Yeah, that's the thing.
Sonic version, Sonic difference that I'm like, well, if they've done all of this other shit, they're definitely going to do Werewolf Sonic at some point.
Probably.
This is very much becoming like an animated version of the Fast franchise, which shout out, they call out Tokyo, like, hey, Tokyo Drift. In their references. That was the thing I also I didn't want to highlight in the spoiler free stuff, but like I also think this is the one that will hold up the best in terms of like it's not filled with like very already outdated references like some of the others were.
Sure.
Going back to like the last one even had like a dance sequence that was like a song that hadn't really been, a hit in 5 years kind of thing. This one has a dance sequence with the Robotniks, but it was much more of a generic whatever song and is just going to benefit from being silly, goofy Jim Carrey dancing with himself. But yeah, I think also in that, the idea of like Amy coming in for the future, and obviously this Metal Sonic tease as like the baddie for the next one. It's like, okay, cool. Those are images I know from Sonic, so I'll show up and have I'll get whatever little like I'll get an understanding of who those characters are when Kind of Funny and Tim do like their breakdowns of the trailers.
Sure. Yeah.
For the next one, but I'm gonna just kind of go into it being like, all right, how long until they go full Sonic 06 on this and be like, we're going to make Sonic 06 right. I don't think they will, but maybe.
I'm confused. Are you saying that he's gonna make out with the girl?
I don't know. I don't think
when you say make it right, are you saying he won't do that?
No, I'm like Sonic 06 is notoriously the worst Sonic game, right?
Yeah.
That's like in the fandom,
I think so.
Everybody's like, that game sucks. I remember
I just know people said it sucks, and I recognize it as Sonic 06 is the one where he kisses the girl.
Sure.
That's my like call to that.
Yeah, I remember when Logan was still with IP, him and Jarrett and George were going to do like a book club for Sonic 06, and I'm pretty sure Logan tapped out and left George and Jarrett to play through that game and discuss it.
I recall this
on their own.
I recall this, yes.
And so yeah, I just know that game, very, very bad game. But like, I think there are probably enough people that will still like lean into it and be like, no, there's something we can salvage. In the same way that Fox kept trying to do the Dark Phoenix story with the same fucking guy. The same writer kind of botching it every time. I think there will be somebody who will be like, I think we can make it work in this medium. And we'll see, how successful they can. Maybe that'll be their Icarus moment where they've flown too close to the sun. But yeah, like overall, this was a fun enough time. And to kind of what I mentioned in the spoiler-free section, I as somebody who did not like the detour to the Four Seasons wedding, Act 2 in the last movie,
I think I'm the only person who ever liked it.
I appreciated that this was very much like, hey, we've heard the feedback, so these people aren't even technically in this movie, but we're going to give them cameos in hologram form kind of thing. And so we get those performers, those actors kind of having their moment, and used incredibly well, incredibly effectively for the little sequence we get them from. It was a similar kind of thing with Adam Pally,'s kind of the deputy or whatever. Like, he obviously probably had more to do in the Knuckles show, but here he pops in for like one scene and that's it. That's all we're seeing him for. Because
Used very well.
yeah, absolutely. But because we've devoted so much to like, hey, this is the Shadow story, and so we're going to go into his his backstory, all the Maria scenes, and a lot of like even there the thing I kind of walk away most confused by is like, okay, so is Maria and Ivo brother and sister, because they're both the grandchild of Gerald Robotnik. Or like I don't know what, or is Ivo a clone of Gerald or something like that? I don't know what's going on there, but that's just the one like confusing thing where I was like, well, that's weird that like they've tied, and I don't know, maybe that is
Cousin. She's the cousin.
Okay.
Literally just looked it up. Just be like, let's just settle this.
Cool.
Cousin. She. I mean, based on the timeline, 50 years. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it was more just driven by the fact that like both of them refer to the professor as their grandfather, or they're like both of them have Gerald as grandfather.
Yeah.
So I was like, are they siblings? Okay, no, they're cousins. Okay, that works in terms of that, but it was just like okay. I definitely had a moment where I'm like, well, yeah, obviously Maria is dead, but I kept kind of I kept wondering, are they going to like do a fake out, and like Maria is, going to come back in the modern day and try and like talk some sense into Shadow. I like that they didn't. I like that it is like all about Shadow's revenge and his rage that he's been sitting on for 50 years, as you touched on, but then having those quiet moments in the past, in the reflection, and having Sonic be the like mirror version of that, and when he gets too deep down the rage well, he sees the error of his ways through his conversation with Shadow there. That was a nice little moment of them on the moon. That's also a weird thing. Just they're out there fighting, going full Super Saiyan across the the map all the way up to the moon. But that was like, I enjoyed the kind of just the nonstop action of their stuff. We get a good, fun movie, kicks off really straight into the action. Apart, like there's the little like, hey, yeah, here's the Team Sonic family set up to give us that little beat, that we're gonna see with Tom later on of like, don't let your pain change who you are kind of thing. But then immediately, Shadow it breaks out and. It goes, runs a rampage in Tokyo, and we get Team Sonic, and we get the showdown that we've seen in the trailers and stuff. It's a fun little opening action set piece.
Yep.
And then we get, the big Sonic versus Shadow at the end too. So
we get the fact that we got to see Super Sonic, and we also get to see Super Shadow. Once again, like the fact that I'm really curious how they're going to do this. I think they nailed it on that front. But yeah, it was all action-wise. I think it was spectacular. It felt a lot like a video game cutscene, but I don't think you can get away from that when everything is going to be CG. Especially like, I loved how the initial part of their fight is them going through like ping-ponging or like pinballing their way across the world. Different like landscapes. They land eventually in an area where it's just the two of them fighting, and kind of like leads off to a I kept on thinking like, oh, Shadow's the one from the trailer. It makes it look like Shadow's the one that like cuts the moon. So I kept waiting for that moment to happen.
Oh yeah, no. As soon as we got like planet destroying laser, I was like, oh right, that's and they're like we have to like veer it away from the Earth. Like, well, that's where we're going to see them just wreck. Which is also like that is a fascinating thing for come Sonic 4, where like the aftermath of they sliced the moon, they sliced through the moon,
they sliced the bottom eighth of the moon off.
Yeah,
which is going to be like that alone should have dire consequences, people.
Yep.
If they won't do it because they'll just like have the moon kind of be broken up in the sky.
Yeah.
Because best case scenario, our tides are kind of fucked with. And we got some more stuff at under sea level. That's like the sea level getting fucked with a little bit, and that happening is like the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, pieces of the moon fall onto Earth and like cause mass casualties.
Sure. Yeah.
Which like, gosh, yeah, no, I think the
and it's all played for a gag in this.
Yep.
Oops.
Yep. That's why I'm like, they're not going to do anything crazy with it.
Yeah, like it is literally like Robotnik being like, I did it, and then like cutting through the moon and him being like, what did you do to Tails and Knuckles.
It was definitely like a gotcha moment there with that. It was like that kind of like that quick humor that you want to see from Jim Carrey on that. I will say I was much more of a fan of the dual role than you were, because I don't have that aversion to Jim Carrey naturally. For me, it kept getting cringy to the moments, but then there would be a singular moment where old Robotnik would be looking at young Robotnik as he was looking away, and you'd see like the mask kind of slip a little bit, and he'd be like, okay. And that kept happening more and more frequently until we get to the very...
We also get like... Yeah. I mean, it's not one-sided. We do get young Robotnik pushing old Robotnik into the laser field
to
test it out, kind of thing.
Yep. Which it's the fact that they both understand that they're both evil and could at any moment betray each other. Instead of adding to the tension, it adds to like the familial aspect of their relationship, which is weird. When I looked up to see if they were cousins, like Maria and Ivo, if they were cousin or brother and sister. I looked it up, and it turns out in the games, old Robotnik is dead. Like, not in the game. He's like a flashback character. So there's none of this being explored in the Sonic Adventure 2.
Sure.
Which is cool. Like, it's an original piece to the story. It adds to that level of like, and also gives us a main antagonist outside of Shadow being the one doing this.
Yeah, it also allows Jim Carrey as Ivo to have like a hero redemption kind of thing.
Sure.
If he can be an anti-hero against the real bad guy, his grandfather, and still do the good thing to go out. And that is the thing I'm probably like very like the most curious about, I guess, is like they obviously after the last movie also kind of left it as like maybe he's dead because Jim Carrey maybe isn't going to come back, and then here Jim Carrey comes back to play two versions of the same ish character kind of thing. But this one very much is like, oh, it seems like both of those guys are dead at the end of this one.
They're like, leaning into it being like, we call Jim Carrey out of retirement to do one more film, and that's gonna be it.
Yeah.
That's definitely the feel that they gave off for this one.
Yeah.
Because they literally, instead of they're like, oh, the robot blew up, it's like, we see like a mini galaxy explode outside of that Earth's atmosphere.
Yeah.
And like
only Shadow can survive. There's just no way a normal guy who's like in the middle of it is going to have survived.
Shadow only survives because that blast would have like at best just knock him back into Earth.
I mean, he also still was Super Shadow at the time.
And he was Super Shadow at the time, yeah. So he was still good on that. As far as like, one, he's the ultimate life form, and two, he was Super Shadow at the moment. So like, you have that like that believability. There's no way Robotnik at the center of that. Also, it ends Robotnik being like a total narcissist where he's at his own center of a mini galaxy, being like very much like a very poetic payoff for his character. Like, quote unquote, like kind of like a, I said quote unquote, but I didn't mean to use that. A sort of, like, what's the term I'm looking for? It's, like a Byronic, like heroic reward.
A Byronic?
Byronic. Byronic? Byron is the author who wrote like basically like a Byronic hero is somebody who
Gotcha.
who's successful
I
but
was
is
like, are you just adding a B to ironic?
No, yeah, no. The idea that this is a hero who achieves their goal, but quote unquote at what cost?
Sure.
He is kind of like a Byronic anti-hero receiving his reward, but at the cost of his life, basically.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the inference I was trying to play with there.
Yeah. Which also in his like final live stream to Agent Stone, he's like, you may be my sycophant, but you're my sicko friend. It's like, oh God, shut up.
That got me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I heard. I heard it got you.
You definitely heard me laughing my butt off during the dance sequence because I like the kids were going nuts and I was going nuts. I really enjoy that kind of like physical humor. I love the camera play with the dual roles and like the old and new kind of like matching each other and kind of doing like a lot of fun camera work with that. You can tell that was like that would have been a long shoot day for Jim Carrey, but also two.
Yeah. I mean, I imagine it was multiple shoot days. Yeah, obviously.
But also at the same time, you can see how much
choreograph like the Ivo part and the Gerald part. And yeah, like for the most part, it's like mirrored versions of it, but still, yeah. And maybe even there, maybe he only did learn like one choreography and they just flipped it in post. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, he would have to do it again in the other makeup though. Like that's the thing.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot playing off there that if like you can see a lot of things that could have gone wrong. Whatever they put together for this is fantastic. I think they nail it.
The thing I was just thinking about through that entire time is like, okay, so they've excused why the lasers aren't destroying their suits, but like, how are they not getting lasered in the face the entire? Especially because like it has been set up. We've seen through like the little hologram model that Tails had. Like we've seen Sonic basically get deatomized by going through that area, and so I'm constantly like, okay, like convenient that the lasers are never touching your guys' face. And so really I was like just watching that entire sequence to see if the lasers were ever hitting their face, but no, the lasers just kept getting like drawn to their body and they were never. So like it at least has its own like internal consistency, but it was also like, well, like why are they
he mentions the suits are emitting a field that attract the lasers, he says.
Yeah.
So they don't have to worry about the lasers. That's why their dance sequence works the way it does with the lighting.
Yeah.
Because it's attracting so they can control the lasers as they're going through it.
Yeah. Less believable and reliable when they're full on doing like spins on like, wrapped around each other's waist or whatever in the moment. I was like, okay, they took this like one step past believability for me. Like, it's already wildly unbelievable. I get that.
That man's 110 years old, dude. Like that should be beyond believable at the moment. That's one thing I loved about it. Also, I love the fact that we get before we get Walker, who's the general, who's like this he's the sub antagonist in 1, a sub antagonist in 2.
I didn't even remember him in 1. I remember him being very prominent in 2.
In 2, he's very prominent as the gun general. Basically, he got moved into that position. In 1, he's the guy who basically hates Robotnik but has to use him to capture Sonic.
Yeah.
That's their entire thing. I liked the Maria also being like a flashback for his character. Mm-hmm. It's like, who was Walker to Shadow? And it's like, oh, Walker was there when technically it's Walker's fault that the explosion went off because he was trying to stop whatever orders they had to kill Shadow. Walker was trying to stop. And so it plays with the tragedy of a Shadow story in a way that it's like even people who are trying to help him still ended up hurting him.
Yeah.
And the confrontation when Tom is camouflaged as Walker is like everything about that sequence is perfect. Mm-hmm. And they absolutely nail everybody's motivation, including Shadow's guilt about hurting a person who was an innocent person. It gives us a clue that Shadow is hurt, but confronted with a one-on-one person that he's hurt, that isn't one of these people that have hurt him, he feels remorse. So we see that that human aspect, or I guess hedgehog aspect of him that's not totally a villain, is definitely into the anti-hero. Plays further into that, but he plays super into the anti-hero by not explaining himself to Sonic.
Sure.
by being like, I'm about to blow up the world, so who cares? Like, I shouldn't be caring about this. Absolutely nailing that, like that entire moment, and also it gives, Tom is the closest thing Sonic's ever had to a father. He's his original best friend. He has been like, he is the only thing, like closest thing Tom's ever had to a son.
Yeah.
They have a father-son relationship, and we get that impactful, like, Sonic's a teenager staying home from while his parents go off to a wedding, and 2 and 3, it's like, hey, we are like, it's the anniversary of you being here, being part of our family, and how much we love you. And then that's emphasized when he visits Sonic's cave for the first time. Mm-hmm. And they talk about Longclaw, who we didn't get mentioned at all into very much.
I thought we did.
At the beginning, we did, with kind of like giving us a throwback to the echidnas coming after Longclaw and Sonic. Yeah. And so that's what we have there. With this one, though, on that end, we get a very tender and emotional scene of like, Longclaw, Sonic still thinks of Longclaw. And you see Tom being like, I know how much Longclaw meant to you, how much you loved her. And he goes, if Longclaw could see you now, she'd be so proud of you. Like, playing into that father figure role so heavily. And so when we see Tom could be dead, like we see him later, he is in a hospital bed, like out cold completely.
Ambulance.
Well, ambulance, and then later in the hospital when the All Our Muffins gal, his wife.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember her character's name.
Is it Janet? I don't remember.
I think it is Janet. Let's see here. Nope, it's Maddie. Maddie, completely wrong. Maddie. When Maddie it shows her for a split second in the hospital with Tom when stuff is going on in space.
I didn't remember a cutaway to them. Okay.
I did, because I noticed like her and Tom, like Tom's hooked up to machines and like it's breathing for him, like he's in a bad shape. So we have that happening. So it's like, it is completely believable. And so like that kind of the tragedy of those moments work extremely well. Walker being like potentially like dead. We don't know yet, because they said we got a medvac coming in for him. But yeah, it is fascinating. Want to give a massive shout out though to also, Kristen Ritter as Director Rockwell. Absolutely killing it as like Walker's out of the picture. I'm in charge now. All aliens must die. Like kind of like attitude about it.
Yeah, it definitely felt like she's maybe being set up as like maybe she's got the metal Sonics and they're kind of operating under her command in the next movie or something.
The vault with the key also with the playing with I'm assuming this is something in the Sonic games somewhere for the inspiration for it, where it's like the alternative gravity.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's even in like Sonic Mania, maybe that was a thing where it's like there are some areas where it's like, okay, yeah, this is going to, propel you up, and then others where the gravity is
going to bring you down, yeah.
Like, yeah, maybe that is a specific level or something like
that. That sequence is so good. So good. Up to and leading through Knuckles breaking it. Mm-hmm. One, breaking in case of emergency, plowing through, great. Being like, oh, I'll turn it off, punches it. It's because you're like, okay, he's going to like boop, 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 and then it's all going to come. It's like, nope, punches it, makes it worse.
He doesn't have fingers. He only has knuckles.
No, they show him with his gloves off. He has fingers.
When do we see Knuckles with his
I saw something, I think it's from the Knuckles show.
Okay.
I saw a still where it has his fingers. I might be wrong on this. It could be fake. It could be a deep fake out there.
That seems like somebody doing like, what is Knuckles? Like, here's Knuckles AI. What is his hand?
That's my thing. It's like, it could be an AI generated image, in which case, like, who knows? But yeah, no, he just punches it, and it's hilarious because it's like, yep. This is the great thing about the voice acting in this is you can tell how excited Ben Schwartzman and Idris Elba are Ben Schwartz?
Yeah.
What did I say?
Schwartzman.
Oh, sorry, Ben Schwartz. My bad.
Well, you said Ben Schwartzman, and it's just Ben Schwartz.
Ben Schwartz and Idris Elba, you can tell, have so much fun in their role. Idris Elba being Knuckles continues to pay dividends.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's very much still like just like it was in the last one. It's him. He's just doing Drax. But it absolutely still works. It's a lot
Knuckles
of fun.
the Destroyer.
Love the like cutaway to them watching Casper the Friendly Ghost and Knuckles having a like, visceral reaction to ghosts. There's no such thing as a friendly ghost.
And that being paid off immediately.
Yeah.
With like the shadow jump scares happening when him taking and capturing everybody.
Yeah.
Peak humor in this movie. Like they just nail it in so many different ways. I think that I think this might have the most like the highest moments, like funniest moments.
Now, sorry, just the thing I'm thinking of now is much like in the first movie, he's watching Speed, and now Keanu has played Shadow.
Yes,
I feel like Christina Ricci has to be the voice of Amy in the next movie.
Dude, if you were right about that's gonna be insane.
I don't think they'll do it, but I will absolutely like find and call back to this episode.
Yeah, we'll clip it out and be like, if it happens, if whatever social media
Trevor predicted.
Yeah,
this,
Trevor. It's like. It's like be like 2024 in the corner of like the video and be like, yeah, it'd be do that. Fast forward to like us reacting to it or something, something fun. Yeah. As we get into like 2026, if we remember this.
Yeah. But yeah, I love them. They obviously again, having some fun with it. I loved that they were setting up when Tom has been hurt and Sonic's like, I need the emerald. Like, Knuckles, you know where it is. I need you to give it to me. And they set up like this standoff, and it's like, oh, we're gonna get like another Sonic and Knuckles showdown, and then Knuckles backs down, is like, even though you're violating, the trust, I have to trust you.
Oh, part of our oath, our sacred oath, is that we will trust each other.
Yeah.
And even though you're breaking it, I'm going to follow through and trust in you.
Yeah.
Which is a big moment about like how far their relationship is going.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like that was a moment where I was like, oh, I was like fully ready for them to have like a quick little Sonic and Knuckles fight, and I liked that they didn't. And they kind of like it was a nice little subversion of what I was expecting in that beat. So yeah, it was like that. I was like, good for you, Knuckles. You absolutely shame him and shade him for him betraying everything you guys are doing. But also, like, you put Adam Pally's character in charge of the Emerald. Like, he is not a good guardian. What are you talking about?
He's stronger even than me. And it's like, what?
No, he ain't.
He's playing hockey with it.
Yeah. Which again, great use of him, great little cutaway. Such a fun, weird little like Clerks beat of like playing hockey on the top of the sheriff's
hut. It's a hut.
Shout out to the occasional cutaways that we get to the like over the top telenovela with
Danny Rojas from Ted Lasso.
And his evil twin, also Danny Rojas, kind of thing. Yeah.
One is Juan.
Juan, and I don't remember the other name.
The other one.
But yeah, and then the best bit being like Shadow saying like she should kill them both.
Pablo, yeah. And Shadow being like, yeah, she should kill them both. Shadow also like, hey, you know what I have down there? Fresh avocados. Gonna make some guac. And he goes, yeah, revenge guac.
Yeah.
And it's like, great.
Yeah. Keanu absolutely having fun with this. And
well, being the most edgelord version of himself he can in this moment. It's like, it's perfect. Every 13, 14-year-old who played Sonic Adventures 2 and like was like, Shadow represents my teenage angst. You are represented here in full. You gotta love it.
Yeah. Any other...
Also, I apologize, I forgot to bring this up. I watched former nerd Chloe Naylor play Sonic Adventure 2 for like a good chunk of it. And I can confirm, she is a Shadow sicko.
Oh, of course.
Particularly.
Color me shocked.
So shout out to her as well.
Knowing Chloe's other tastes in pop culture stuff in general. Oh, you mean the person who's a sicko for Syndrome and General Grievous is also a sicko for Shadow?
Syndrome is I think a bit weird. Is a weirder one than Shadow to me, but
yeah, she likes the bad boys.
She likes bad boys.
Anyway, any other spoilery things you want, or just other things that we haven't discussed that you want to throw out there?
I'm pretty like I'm really happy. Like I think I was a bit more down on it in the spoiler free mode. But overall, like I still had a great time. This is a great movie. Yeah, I think for me, like I'd rate this as like an 8.5, 8.5. That great movie. I think it definitely ranges up there. Just for the fun and like playing off of former references. This is the third movie. Like as
shout out to the Jim Carrey, like that. It would be like if we were, we look like we're, the same actor playing two different roles, and then just like immediate head turn to the camera, just absolutely calling out that fourth wall joke.
Yep, breaking down the fourth wall in that moment, and then rebuilding it right away. Overall, like really, really good. Can't emphasize that enough. I think as far as a trilogy goes, the fact that the consistency of the three movies throughout, and the fact that like they get better, I think the pacing works better in 2 because I am apparently the only human being on Earth who doesn't hate the human part of that movie, and thought that it added to it. But that's just me.
I only hate that it is so detached and so long. Like if it had been a couple of scenes at the wedding, cool, fine. But the fact that it's pretty much like all of the second act is, hey, we're just going to turn into a rom-com for 30 minutes of this movie is like, okay, what?
But then you get to see her go on a tear.
Yeah, she goes Bridezilla. I get it.
Just fucks up all the gun agents. Like, it's great. I love that.
I still don't think it needed to be as much as it was. And again, I think in this movie used it incredibly effectively.
They were used incredibly well.
Like she comes in, like in hologram form. She comes in. She eats into that the guard there guy and gets her her bit and puts the fear of God in him and is done.
Also reminding us that her husband's name is Randall Handel. That's great. That's just great. I love that. Sorry, this is the thing I like. This is this is why I'm not a Sonic sicko, because I enjoy the human parts of these movies. But yeah, overall, I think.
I do got to shout out Puppet Tom.
Puppet Tom,
absolutely love it. I mean, I love the whole like
empty nest syndrome that they have.
The absolute like, oh, look at all of the different things they've done to try and occupy their time in the day or whatever that Sonic's been away. Including like Puppet Tom and like the wife also just being like I don't like that. Shout out to the dog being like they took my humans.
Yep, that was great. Oh, shout out to Puppet Tom showing up as part of the hologram, by the way.
Yeah,
so good.
I mean, all the hologram stuff when Tom's like futzing with it and like you get like a big head mode, a small head mode kind of thing. I feel like one of them was a direct like. Here's ugly Sonic version of Tom.
Yes, there was one for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I do want to say when he does pull him up and like they're all huddled around, he pulls him up in between him and his wife, and it's just like, and it's just Puppet Tom was used just the right amount.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, great.
Absolutely. And then I mean, like even the like clearly like Donut Lord like knit sweater that they'd gotten into.
The fact that it has fully like yarn donuts attached to it is insane.
Yeah, absolutely. Production design had some fun with this one.
Oh, for sure.
Fun time. The ship going up into outer space. You laughed ridiculously when the ship got its like solar panel mustache.
Yeah.
That was a big pop for you. I remember.
It's perfect.
Yeah. Absolutely.
It's fashionable and technical.
Yeah. They like, as much as I would love less Jim Carrey in this, like they do have a lot of fun with this Robotnik. And there were plenty of times where like, they throw like, we get a cutaway to like, ooh, Robotnik's getting a new suit. And it's like, that is a good looking full Sonic suit. Yeah, absolutely. They're fully leaning into their nerdiness of it. I think maybe the most like the weirdest like reference that's like, all right, that is the like out of time joke for this one is like the nano glove. Oh, I haven't seen one of those since I watched Green
Lantern in 2011.
It's like, all right,
that's a weird joke.
So even that's a joke that's 10 years too late.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just like like that and like the weird like Mantis versus Scorpion bit. I was like, maybe this is like.
I just think it's funny.
I
thought that was funny.
I mean, like, there's definitely an element there of like, yeah, the Robotniks are always like weirdly obsessed with animals and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Obviously, we get so many of the robot animals and stuff like that. But the fact that it was just those two and they didn't like switch it up or anything.
Yeah, I thought it would have been better if they switched it up.
That was odd.
I will say, what was it? One of the best moments for me was pulling up their names, Tom and Maddie get to the server room, plug it in, blow on it. They're like, "Oh, we got to blow on it."
Yeah.
90s best generation, best generation.
And while Tails is being like, "There's no scientific evidence that does anything." It worked. All right, well, never mind. Yeah.
But then my favorite part is right after that. That like they get that winter beat cool. Like, hey, was there supposed to be another key fob down here?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Does that key fob have a mustache? Zooms over and it's the Robotnik one, and it's just like magnifique. Say magnifique.
Shout out to just because I'm one of the podcasts I'm regularly listening to these days is the Lonely Island and Seth Meyers podcast. Shout out to Yorma Takone of the Lonely Island being like the one that's in there monitoring Shadow at the beginning, and him being like we need more guys, and the other guy being like, that's all the guys we have. It was just fun seeing him pop up because I'm listening to him on a podcast pretty much every week. So yeah, it was just like oh hey, it's Yorm, neat. But yeah,
Just
fun little movie. Again, like you saying like it's in the great range for you. For me, it's more of a 7.5 maybe.
Sure.
It's a good movie. Like I won't think about this, much. I don't imagine it'll rank too high in my like overall movies of the year kind of list. But it was fun. It was fun enough.
I'd have to go over my movie list, but I don't know if it makes my top 5. But
yeah,
this year just had really banger movies too.
Sure. So yeah. But like for comparison, I would probably say like Sonic 2 was probably like a 6.5 for me.
Oh, okay.
Like still not like they're like none of them are terribly bad or anything like that.
Sure.
But they're like and there are like even this being a 7.75 for me, like it's a fun time. Like it's a good fun time. I just don't think it's doing a lot of like great to it.
Sure.
But yeah, you can have a fun 7. Absolutely. Swimming in 7s, all those kinds of things. Anyway, so those are our thoughts on Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Definitely let us know what you thought in the comments and all that fun stuff. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap up the episode. Thank you, Cam, for joining me to not only watch the movie, but then also come and chat about it. You can follow Cameron at revcabot.bsky.social. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, I want to give a massive shout out to that D Plus show. We just wrapped earlier this week. Funny if we were talking at the movie theater, like, what has happened? It's like we saw each other 2 days ago.
We saw each other 2 days ago.
Nothing's happened since then.
Yeah, exactly. Not much.
Yeah, shout out to that episode where we, for the first time, covered a Simpsons episode. I've done. You've done a couple.
I've done a few, and then we did the monorail.
March of the Monorail.
Yeah,
one we did that one. But this is the first Christmas one they've had in a long time. We got to have a really fun time talking about it, and kind of digging into it. So that's this last episode of that D Plus show. Go check it out.
Yep, The Simpsons. Oh, come on, all ye faithful.
That's right.
That particular episode that debuted directly on Disney+.
Mm-hmm.
You follow me at trevorjstarkey.bsky.social, and continuing that on, happy holidays to everybody that's going to be celebrating this week. And then come Friday, we will have our Doctor Who Joy to the World episode, the Christmas special for Doctor Who that is dropping this week. We'll be doing that and recording our podcast for that. And then, because that... I don't know if we'll have a That Nerdy Site show next week. We might take next week off just kind of here at year end, and then
I think so. Yeah,
hit the ground running there in January with like our Game of the Year stuff, probably on the 6th.
Looking at the
best movies on the 13th, maybe.
I think you're right on that. I think when we're looking at the schedule right now, there's nothing going to be happening between this week and next week as far as like big gaming moments or anything like that. I think everybody's just going to need that holiday to deal with the upcoming New Year. Honestly, we could use that time to prep our lists and get ready for it.
Yep,
so.
Absolutely. Do some write-ups and whatnot. I'm playing like 1 or 2 last kind of final games here at the end of the year.
Same.
But yeah. So yeah, you can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site, or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. If you like what you heard, once again, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with all your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you again for listening. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, and gotta go fast.
Gotta go fast!